Well, the last book of the Bible we looked at wasn't very nice, was it? It wasn't very happy. Life was a mess. That's what we saw in the book of Judges. We saw that in those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. Well, the next book of the Bible we're going to look at, Ruth, starts a bit like that. It reminds us that it happens in the days of the Judges. And it starts really sad. But by the end of it, we see some happiness. We see some hope. Now, I've got some puppets, some friends to help me today to tell this story. Here's the first one. You may know him as Grandad from the puppet shows at church, but we don't have a Grandad really in this story. We've got a lady called Naomi. So, can you play Naomi, Grandad? Thanks, I've got a wig for you. Okay, there we go. There's a nice wig for Grandad, because this is now going to be Naomi. There she is. Hello, Naomi. Who else have we got? So we've got Naomi. We've got, well, it wouldn't be the book of Ruth without a Ruth. This is Ruth. Say hello, Ruth. Hello. There we go. So Ruth's here as well. And finally, we've got Boaz. I wanted to call my son Boaz, but my wife wouldn't let me. This is Boaz. Hiya, Boaz. These are the people that we're going to look at in today's story. So, let's find out about Naomi first, because the story starts with Naomi. Now, Naomi lived in Israel. There we go. That's where Naomi lived. But there was a famine. There wasn't enough food. So she moved with her husband and her 2 sons, and they went to live in Moab, just down the road. So there Naomi was her husband, 2 sons, and then her sons got married. Her sons got married to 2 women called Orpah and Ruth. What do you think of your daughters-in-law, Naomi? You like them? You like Orpah and Ruth? Great. They're having a great time, but something really sad happened. Naomi's husband died, and her 2 sons died as well. How sad. So Naomi thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go back to Israel. She went back to Israel. And when she was back in Israel, she said to her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, go home, go back to Moab. Go and find another husband and enjoy yourself. And Orpah did. She went back to Moab. But Ruth did not want to leave Naomi. Ruth said, I'm going with you. I'm going to stay with you. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. So Ruth went with Naomi. So Ruth and Naomi in Israel together. But Naomi was so sad, she actually changed her name. She changed her name from Naomi, which means pleasant, to Mara, which means bitter. She said, the Lord, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. So Naomi and Ruth were together in Israel. But they had no jobs. They had not very much money, and so they were both hungry. What was that noise, Ruth? Was that your tummy rumbling? Are you hungry? What are you going to do? Well, what Ruth did, they didn't have food banks back then, but what you could do is you could go to someone's field. This is like a pretend field here. And when they were harvesting the grain, you could wander behind them, and any grain that dropped on the floor behind the harvesters, you could pick up and keep for yourself. And Ruth was doing that. She followed the harvesters round, and any grain that fell she picked up, and she either ate it for herself or she kept it and brought it back to Naomi. So there's Ruth getting the grain from the field. And while she was doing that in the field, a man appeared. Boaz appeared. Boaz says hello to the harvesters. And then he goes up. He owns the field, so he goes up to Ruth and he says, I know you, Ruth. My men have told me that you came to look after Naomi. That's very kind and generous. I'm going to keep you safe. You can have as much food from my fields as you want. And at meal times, when Boaz was eating the food with his harvesters, he would share some with Ruth. Boaz is very kind, isn't he? Do you think Boaz is kind? Yeah. Well, Ruth went home and he told her mum, Mum, mother-in-law, I've met a man and he's very kind and generous and he's given us all this food. And Naomi said, well, this man is part of your extended family. If you married him, he would keep you safe. Go and make it really clear that you want to marry him. So Ruth did. She went and she got dressed up. She stopped dressing like a widow and started dressing like someone who wanted to find a husband. And she went and she made it really clear to Boaz that she wanted to marry him. And he said, whoa, that's really kind. I'd like to marry you too, but I need to make sure that it's all right and legal. Wait a minute and I'll sort it out. Okay. So Boaz went and he sorted out all the legal things to make sure that he could marry Ruth. And so when he got permission, Boaz and Ruth got married. And after they'd been married for a little bit, Ruth had a little baby. You've been getting much sleep, Ruth? Is it good to have a baby? Yes. And not only Ruth, but Naomi absolutely loved having a granddaughter. She looked at this little grandson, She looked at this little grandson and thought, whoa, God has blessed me. She wasn't Mara anymore. She wasn't bitter anymore. She was Naomi again. She was pleasant. And actually, right at the end of Ruth, what we learn is this little baby boy, is going to grow up. And he's going to have a baby boy called Jesse. And Jesse is going to have a baby boy called David. And David is going to be that king that God's people need. God has worked it all out to provide a king for his people. And he's worked it all out through the lives of Boaz and Naomi and Ruth. So here's the message of Ruth. God is always at work to keep his promises, even through everyday life, through the hard times that Naomi had, through the kindness of Ruth, through the generosity of Boaz. God was working to keep his promises, to bring his people a king. And we're going to hear about this king in our next couple of videos. But as we finish, let me just say a verse from the New Testament. It's from Romans, and it says this: we know that in all things God works for those who love him. We know in all things God works for those who love him. That was true in Ruth and Naomi and Boaz's life. And if we're trusting Jesus, we know that's true in our life.